Hi, welcome back to my channel. I was going to do this whole cute series where I put my physical TBR on a TBR cart and read it throughout the year and be like, wow, I got my physical TBR so low. I needed 3 carts for my physical TBR and there's still more. I have around 200 books that I have on my physical TBR that I'm very excited to read, but I need help getting to them. So I think that I'm going to do a series every month, at the end of every month, and pick out of my TBR jar. And we're going to try and read like 5 books, and we're going to either read it or unhaul it. So either way, they're off of my TBR shelves, my TBR carts, whatever. I also got this at the thrift store and I was like, this is going to be so funny. It's going to be so oversized for how many slips of paper in it. Nope. Wrong. And there aren't 200 slips of paper in here because I'm a chronic series buyer where I buy multiple books in a series that I haven't read from yet. So only whatever book I'm on in whichever series is in here. I'm also not going on a book buying ban. I don't want to. I just don't. And I have a couple book subscriptions that I don't want to cancel or like go on the wait list again for. Absolutely not. But I will not be putting them in here as I get them. I want to read the books that have been on my physical TBR. That's the goal. This is so fun. I think I'm going to pull them all at once because it's more fun that way. Also, they're color coded. I'll put the key up here because honestly I don't remember anymore what most of them are. But I'm not going to even look at the genre, whatever the color of the genre is. I'm just going to pick for this month. I'm good with this. I'm good with this first one. Negative Space is a hypnotic collage of message boards, memes, and ruined bodies twisting at the end of a rope. But this was put on my radar by Baker Reads. He has the best recommendations if you need weird or disturbing. I think that this is about a group of teenage kids who go into a forest, start a cult, and do drugs, but it's super bleak. I'm very excited for this one. I'm also scared that there's not going to be an audiobook, but that's okay. Number 2. Oh my gosh, so you know I'm not cheating. So I do think that orange is horror. Another one that's been on my TBR for a really long time. A Cosmology of Monsters, I think by Sean Hill. The cover is stunning. Stephen King and Carmen Maria Machado blurbed it, and I love both of them. But also Jennifer McMahon blurbed it, and I only read one book by her, but I did not love it. Noah Turner sees monsters, but unlike his family, Noah chooses to let them in. Can't believe we got 2 horrors. I feel like I don't own that many, but I am excited to get to this. We also haven't started any series yet. Oh, we got a fantasy. I promise that it's There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. Also something that I've had on my TBR, I think for 3 or 4 years now. The Age of Darkness approaches. 5 lives stand in its way. Who will stop it or unleash it? All of these are sounding so good, and like, yes, I did buy these books and put them on my TBR, but I've had all of these books on my shelves for at least a few years. I don't totally remember what they're about. I also don't know how many people have talked about this, but I'm so excited. And I'm not unhauling anything yet, which means I have to read it, but I am excited. Maybe I should say that I'm excited a few more times, because I don't think that you're getting it. I don't think we're quite on the same wavelength yet. 2 more books. Ooh. Oh no. I saw the colors and I was aiming for one. Another horror. This is one that I've been wanting to read for a while. It's Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt. That's been on my TBR forever too. Boom. I think this is another one that Baker Reads put on my TBR. My entire horror and thriller TBR is pretty much just whatever Baker Reads says. Whoever is born here is doomed to stay till death. Whoever settles never leaves. Very creepy. I can't believe that this is turning into a horror vlog. Maybe I need to stir it up better. But I've gotten stuff off of the top and the bottom. It just looks all orange. And I was just thinking, I was like, I kind of need to buy more horror books. I don't think that I have any. Wrong. Oh. We cheated a little. Yellow is special editions, and I got A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. I'm super happy to read that. I also haven't heard great things about A Dark Enchanting Tide, but the cover is stunning. I wonder if I can get any of these on Libby. A Dark Enchanting Tide has 8 weeks wait. Cosmology of Monsters is available to borrow. So that will probably be my audiobook. And then I will start Negative Space since I just don't think it has one. There Will Come a Darkness is also immediately available. Okay, I will probably update you with my thoughts on Negative Space first since that's going to be my priority because it has no audiobook, which should be a crime. But I'll see you then. About an hour into A Cosmology of Monsters, and so far it's about a girl who's in college and she is not really into the idea of being married and settling down and being a mom, but that's definitely what's expected of her. But she has to work at a bookstore and there's a guy that reads there. He's not well off, he's kind of a townie, and he reads horror, loves horror, is trying to get her into horror and explain it to her. And there's this attraction between them that she can't seem to explain. And we've already had like one horror scene, but it's been in her head. It's reminding me a lot of Stephen King. And we are going to go on a hike now and touch some grass since it's so nice out. And I'm going to continue with the audiobook. So I've gotten farther into the Cosmology of Monsters, like a third of the way into it. I'm not loving it. There was this much supernatural horror, but it was mostly marital problems and a woman who has kids and doesn't really like them or want them, and someone getting cancer and dying. It's just like all real life things that I'm just not into for my horror. And now we're years later. So sorry. I just talked to you when she was still in college. She married the horror guy that she went on that date with. All of that happened. Got married, had kids, super resentful. He died from cancer. And now we're years later after he died from cancer from the perspective of her youngest child. And she had him right before the husband died of cancer. And from his perspective, he's like 6, I think. And now we're following the mom and her 2 daughters and then him. And also her mom's business partner, who is definitely just like her girlfriend. And it's just a lot of family drama, family anguish, weird stuff is happening. The oldest daughter thought a lot about wishing her mom would die so that she could marry her dad. Just weird things. I can't say that I'm like loving it, and I could DNF it right now, but I'm going to try to see it through to the end. My guess is that it's going to be a 3-star, and I'm going to feel nothing by the end of it. But it'll be off my shelves, so I'll let you know. I'll update you. I finished A Cosmology of Monsters, and this is kind of dumb. Anytime a book is like, love is the answer, and it saved us, I'm kind of annoyed. Most of the time, I'm kind of annoyed, especially in a horror book. And this book was just really weird, too. So we pivot to when the boy, Noah, is 6, and he meets this monster outside of his home and befriends it, and it starts like sleeping in his bed and stuff, and no one is really checking in on Noah. One of his older sisters goes missing, the other one is just kind of dealing with her sexuality, and the mom is just not being a good mom at all, which, like, I get it. Her husband dies and now she has to figure out how to take care of these kids that she didn't really want in the first place. I understand. And then he becomes lovers with this monster, which feels very like groomy kind of. And then in order to save his family, he has to kind of like sacrifice himself. I don't know. I don't think that I really like this. I think I'm giving it like 2.75 stars. This has not been a great reading vlog for me so far. But if you want something very weird, I would maybe recommend it. But otherwise, not really. Not really at all. I didn't update you yesterday because between the inauguration and me hating that book, I was just like not in the mood to talk to anyone. And it's cold as balls here today. It's cold, but it hasn't been like raining. So we haven't gotten any snow because it would snow at this point, which is rude. We could have gotten snow. I do have my Halloween Snoopy mug though because I am a millennial. He's waiting to cuddle, if you can't tell. And I'm gonna read a little bit before work. We got back from the dog park and breakfast. I showered. It was all great. Now both my boys are tired and I'm like 70 pages into Negative Space by B.R. Yeager. And I have some thoughts. This is reminding me so much, if you've ever watched the TV show Skins, it's just like that. It's a bunch of dirtbag teenagers doing dirtbag teenager stuff, taking drugs, minor petty crimes, that kind of thing. And I'm really liking it, but I think it's going to turn into some kind of a supernatural horror soon. We're following 2 teen boys and 2 teen girls, and one of the teen boys we haven't really gotten a perspective from, but he is into one of the boys and one of the girls, and he's just like in general kind of awful. And the girl is super pathetic, very much like teenage girl in love, and just like willing to be treated like absolute garbage in order to stay with him. And then the boy is kind of the same, and the boy has also figured out that the boy that is treating everyone like garbage also is like a super scary conspiracy theorist, and has like, you know that wall for the meme for It's Always Sunny that Charlie's in front of? It feels like that, but it's a bunch of papers shoved under the couch. Also in this town, it's not a very big town, but there's hundreds of suicides every year, and people keep killing themselves. We're also seeing this online chat room about this phenomenon that's happening. One of the girls is involved in it. She's also like super antisocial, I think, on the spectrum, and struggles with in-person interactions, but has thrived more in this chat room, and I'm very intrigued with it so far. I'm liking it a lot. It's reading fast because of the chat room parts. Like, there's realistically not that much text on the screen to read, and I'm just really liking it. It's definitely for me, and I will update you when I have more thoughts on it. On page 160 of Negative Space now. I just need to talk to someone. We are with Jill and Tyler, the actual couple in this story, and there have been a lot of suicides that have happened. There have been a lot of people taking this purpley gray ashy hallucinatory drug, and just very bleak. Lots of bad things happening. It's very Skins, but like bleaker. Jill is so down bad for this really shitty boy, and she needs to stand the fuck up, but I don't think that she's going to. She has invited Tyler so very graciously to her Thanksgiving with her family, and he's 2 hours late, shows up in really dirty clothes, is just like petulantly talking to her family, and one of her cousins or something pulls her aside and is like, "We're white trash, but he sucks. Like, we have standards." And Jill just kind of brushes her off, and her dad lets Tyler cut the Thanksgiving turkey, and Tyler takes the knife and slits his wrist over it. Is bleeding onto the turkey, and I just need to talk to you about that because that's bonkers. He has a history of self-harm, and it's very evident in all of his scars, and he also was missing for a little bit, and they found him and he was all messed up in the woods. Is just continually muttering strange things, and has turned his entire basement into symbols and drawings and weird messages, and none of the people that we're following from the perspective of are okay, but he's especially not okay. And I don't know that I would really recommend this book to anyone, but I'm invested in it for whatever reason, so I'll update you again when I need to. I'm just gonna update you every time something bonkers and uncomfortable happens. I'll probably be updating you 100 more times, but Lou is the person who we see on the chat message boards all the time and is friends with Jill. Has been missing, and people are looking for them, and it feels like Lou's and Jill's dreams have been connected. We've been seeing that before. This one specifically, Jill thinks that she has seen where Lou is, but doesn't say anything for some reason. And then Lou wakes up and is found by a police officer, gets taken advantage of, and then taken home. This whole town is just absolutely fucked up, and I'm stressed out. That happened like 10 pages after the turkey incident, so I don't know. So this sucked. This was just super bleak. You think everything's going to be okay, and then it's just like awful and makes no sense. I am giving this a 3 because I think that as far as horror goes, it was horrific. I was horrified. It was a fever dream of a book in a bad way. It reminded me of Skins if there was also haunted LSD and I would not really recommend this to anyone. Maybe like splatterpunk enthusiasts if you want a really bleak book that's just gonna make you sad, but other than that, I don't know. It wasn't super for me, and I'll see you in the morning with my next book. We made dinner, played Little Hope. The ending was stupid. If you haven't played that, it's a super massive game. And then I also went on a teeny tiny run. I'm trying to get back into being cardiovascularly active, and it's kind of a bitch. That's where we're at. I talked to one of my friends on TikTok who reads a lot of sapphic books, so I was pretty sure that she would have read this, and she has. And she really likes it. She said to give it until when they're actually on the journey, and I'll kind of get a better idea for how the whole book's going to go. But if I continue to be bored, I just like thought about all of the books that I'm so excited to try this year, and if I'm not having a good time, I'm just gonna stop reading it. Update you in 50 pages unless it's going spectacularly well, then I'll update you when I have something interesting to say. We're going to make muffins while I tell you about A Dark and Drowning Tide. I'm about halfway done, a little less, and I'm enjoying it more than I was when I initially started it, but it's still not like, it's not going to be a 5-star book. It's probably not even going to be a 4-star book. It's very slow, very internal monologue-y, not even about what's happening, and that's just not really my kind of story. We're following Lorelai, who is a naturalist at this university and about to go on an expedition. She unexpectedly gets to lead it, and she's there with 5 other naturalists, but she's also wasn't ever really supposed to be educated. She's from a rural area that her people are not well liked. They're pretty racist towards her people typically. And she also secretly can do magic, which has been found out. And they're going on this expedition. They've gotten a grant from the king in order to, I'm not super sure, I think get resources and stuff. Find out where the spring of this major source of magic is so that the king can marry someone who is full of magic. Right away, this expedition is not going well. All of these people on this expedition are very pretentious, very strong-willed, and have a lot of opinions. They're also all extremely annoying to me. Lorelai is our main character, and she also has this rivalry of sorts with Sylvia, very clearly the love interest. They are super into each other, but not really acknowledging it. And I don't know if you would just call it like the oldest person on this trip has been murdered. Lorelai writes the king like, hey, what should we do? And the king's like, I'll deal with it, just keep going, despite there being a murderer on this trip. And Sylvia's like, okay, I guess. But she's also trying to figure out who murdered this person and is trying to very sneakily investigate and talk to all of these people. But it is notable that she is trying to make conversation without having a motive, so everyone is immediately suspicious of her beyond her race. They're all pretty chill with her being, I think they're called Yivas. They're all pretty chill with that. They did find out that she can do magic though, because she has to try and save Sylvia. It was a whole thing. We've gotten a couple of their like tropey things, and the romance aspect, the rivals to lovers that is clearly happening in this story, I've been enjoying, but it's just the rest of it that has been a bit slow for me. It's very whimsical, and I'm not super into a whimsical fantasy, so I think that's like lowering my enjoyment of it. I think that it's probably going to be a 3.5 star at this point. I also find Lorelai being in her head just kind of annoying. She's clearly gone through a decent amount of trauma, is not dealing with it very well, but she's also kind of dumb. I am having trouble with her being dumb. And I have the pretty Illumicrate edition, so I want to keep reading it to see if I want to keep it or not. And that's about all I got for you. I'll update you maybe when the muffins are done, or maybe when I'm done with the book. We'll see. It doesn't look like much, but my muffins turned out good. I'm on part 3 of A Dark and Drowning Tide, and it's kind of the same. They're making all of the bad decisions. They've split up. They got wet in the very cold. Lorelai and Sylvia are off by themselves looking for a third member of their group, the only person that is nice to Lorelai, and they found him. He has been duped by some of the creatures in the forest and he's very ill. So they make the choice to continue on without him in order to find this magical spring so that they can save him. and instead they come on this body of water that grants answers to questions. Sylvia very stupidly wasted hers, so Lorelai had to use hers so that they could find where the upsprung, which is like the spring of magic. And everyone's just making very dumb decisions, and also Lorelai's internal monologue is extremely dramatically woe is me, and that's just super annoying to me. That's why I had so much trouble with The Tainted Cup, because the narrator's internal monologue was very like, woe is me, I suck, I'm being unpleasant, but I don't understand why nobody likes me, etc. And that's kind of how this is going, and for some reason Sylvia likes her, but is also not really taking her shit anymore, which is nice. Yeah, it's fine. I'm hoping to finish this tonight. This is how much I have left. Yeah, that's all I got for you. I'll let you know when I'm done. We are later in the real timeline, but I realized I forgot to film like my final thoughts on this, and it was just fine. The meandering way with which this story is told is just not for me. It's very whimsical. There are folklore fairy tales told throughout, and I was honestly skipping them. I was skimming. I was not really enjoying this. The romance was great, but it didn't make up for the way that I was feeling about the rest of the story. This is just like not really a for me story. I'm assuming because I have not read it, but if you liked Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, you might like this. It's kind of, I'm imagining the same vibes, but just not for me. I really like the romance though, so maybe if Alison Saft writes something that is more action focused, I would probably check it out, because the romance worked so well for me. Good morning. I thought that we could have breakfast together and I could talk about There Will Come a Darkness. I think I'm like a third of the way through it, and I have not updated you about what it's about. And honestly, I'm not super sure. There's 5 people in the front, and I'm pretty sure we're getting 5 POVs. The Age of Darkness approaches. 5 lives stand in its way. Who will stop it or unleash it? So there is a prince that's exiled from his kingdom, and there's a lot of refugees wherever they are, so he's just kind of one of them and hiding his identity. There is a killer known as the Pale Hand, and she is killing to keep her sister alive who had died. I think that she resurrected her sister and has to keep killing people in order to keep her sister alive. There is a guy that gambles, and he also scries and can find people. He's like pretty reckless and just like kind of does whatever he wants. Oh, and then there's the son of like a general, and he's becoming a new leader, and on his rise he has to pick 6 people, and like his childhood best friend just came back from shirking his duties, and he picks that guy. Those are kind of all of the taglines of everybody on the front cover, like the page flap, and that's pretty much all that's happened. Their lives are starting to intertwine as expected, and the magic system doesn't really feel like a system. It just feels like there's like something magically different is happening to every person, and none of them have been like defined or explained, which is fine. I'm just a little confused right now, and I don't know if it's because I'm doing the audiobook, but maybe I'll sit down with it later and do some tandem reading, or what's it called, immersive reading, and see if that is helpful. Everyone is feeling very archetypey. It's kind of giving Six of Crows right now, which was like not my favorite book, but I liked it. So I'm hoping that I'll like this one even better. It's also a debut, which it kind of feels like a debut, not in like an awful way, but like a little bit. And I'm hoping we get a more like defined magic system. That's all I really want. I think the characters are good. The characters are kind of archetypey, but I'm enjoying them. Also, vegan cream cheese is not it. I'm not a vegan. We got this on accident. But like, a bagel's a bagel. So I'll update you when I have more thoughts. Okay, I finished There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole, and like, it was fine. It was 5 teenagers who are dictating whether the world ends or not, or the Age of Darkness comes. And it was just fine. There was, what are their names? Ephra was the sister killing people in order to keep her sister alive, and she was just super justifying of killing an entire town to keep one person alive. And yeah, it was her sister, but like, morally gray. I enjoyed her character a lot, all things considered. And then we had Hassan the prince, who thought he was the person in the prophecy that was going to be able to tell the future. He was not. He was just a prince, and not a very good prince either. His character his character we spent so much time with, and he was so boring. I was not into him at all. Jude, who was like the holy warrior, it's kind of like if you gave a Mormon a sword, was his vibe. And then we had Anton, who kind of had like a romantic thing with Jude. They kept saving each other. Anton was the one who could kind of tell the future. He was the prophecy kid. It was like super obvious when they like dropped the information. I was like not surprised at all. It was like, yeah, it was very clear that we were leading up to here. But he had a thing with Jude, and that was kind of fun. Anton, he was just kind of going through it. I wasn't super stoked on his character either. And then we didn't get a whole lot of POV from Ephra's sister. Yeah, Baru, who was just like the typical like kind-hearted, doesn't want to hurt anybody, but also let her sister kill for her for years, I think. So, and finally she was just like, hey, quit killing people, just let me die. And they destroyed a lighthouse. And I will not be continuing with this series. I don't know if I'm just like, with this TBR challenge, I'm not reading the books that I would normally want to read, but usually I have a TBR that I stick to pretty well. It's just that I didn't pick these at all. I don't know if that's the problem. There was a couple of these books in this challenge that I should have just DNF'd and I didn't. So the goal for next time is to DNF books as soon as I'm not enjoying them. Because I'm like, what if they get better? I'm like 80% of the way through with it, and I'm like, it still might get better, and it doesn't. I'm giving this a 3.25. It's a very typical YA fantasy. The consequences are the end of the world type vibes. It was fine. I would say that I would recommend it for Six of Crows fans, except there was no found family and there was no heist, which are the best things about Six of Crows, but I don't know, it's just like the only thing that I can think to compare it to. And now I'm also starting, I have started, I just haven't updated you yet because I was annoyed about that book. Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt. This is about a town where they cannot leave. You can physically leave, but if you leave for too long, you start to have like these suicidal ideations and you will more than likely kill yourself because of this witch that lives there. The lore is of the witch that she was forced to kill herself and now she haunts this town. Her eyes are stitched shut. She's just a creepy girl that is just floating around through town. And they talked about how she just exists certain places in the town and they have to just deal with her. Like one time for like 3 days she just existed in their grocery store and they put like a Easter bunny cut out in front of her so that they didn't have to look at her. And as long as you don't try and fuck with her, it's a pretty neutral relationship, but if you do, she'll get you. They compared it to a pit bull behind a chain link fence. If you stick your fingers through, she'll bite them off, but if you leave her alone, she's just kind of there and angry. And we're primarily following this nuclear family. I think there's a mom, a dad, and 2 boys. And the boys are teens. It's in the age of YouTube and stuff, so they're like filming things and trying to start a YouTube channel kind of surrounding this witch, but also doing it in secret so the people of the town don't know because it's a no-no. And also if you move there and I think spend so much time there, you're stuck there. We've been introduced to a couple that have been trying to buy a house here and people are like, no, you don't want this, we'll pay you to go away. And they're like, no, we're gonna live here. Now that you don't want us to live here, we're gonna live here. And it's like, girl, if someone's paying you $5,000 not to move into a house, take the money and run. Dumb choices. What's the saying? Stupid questions get you stupid answers. Stupid decisions get you fucked up in life, I guess. And I'm enjoying it so far. It's fine. It's not been particularly horrifying, but I'm also only, well, I guess I'm 29% in. But every time Stephen King blurbs a book, I'm like, this kind of sounds like Stephen King. Like, this is reminiscent to me, the way that it's written, the narrative of Stephen King, and then he's blurbed it. And I'm like, maybe it just is him, just under a different name. But I know that this was also translated. It was translated from Dutch, and I'm not having an issue with the translation at all. Although, this has nothing to do with the translation, actually. The audiobook, there is one female voice that the male narrator does that is just pissing me off. It sounds like they're making fun of the way women talk, and it's very irritating to me. This is my last book of the vlog. I'm excited for this vlog to be over. This was not great in terms of the books that I read. I don't think, unless this book is a 4-star, I haven't gotten anything above a 3 and some change. So, fingers crossed for me for having a 1 win. Just one. We've had nice weather though, and you've seen me go outside quite a bit, but I would like a reading win as well. Okay, I will update you if I have any real thoughts. So I just started chapter 25 of Hex, and this is by far the best book that I've read this vlog. The best written and the best plot, story, everything. I'm enjoying it. I think right now it's probably going to be like a 4-star. This witch is just absolutely terrorizing this town. Basically, every once in a while we'll get told something and then it'll be like the narrator telling us, and that's the last time they ever did that, unbeknownst to whatever character. And we get these little tidbits of premonitions basically, and it makes it so much more spooky. I think that this would be such a good book to read in the fall. That had been my intention last year and it just never happened. Or like if you're camping in a forest, this would be really effective, I feel. We're just bouncing back and forth between all of the main characters, mostly that nuclear family, and then the couple, I think, is pretty much all we're getting. And the woman that leaves the witch sacrifices. That lady's weird. And it's just like a creepy witch haunted town story where you can't leave. Like, following all those archetypes, but I'm just having such a good time participating in this story. And I think also in comparison to the 4 losses that I've had for this vlog for this week, this is great. I'm loving this. It's compared to vintage Stephen King and John Lindquist, Let the Right One In, which I haven't read yet, but is also on my TBR and makes me more excited to read it. Also, this is a debut. This is great. Excellent. I am loving this. That's all the updates I have for you, and I will come back when I'm done with this. Ending of this, absolutely insane. We went through pretty much every person's personal hell. That's like the climax of sorts of this book, and then the end, like the last page. Perfection. This is a 4.5 star for me. It was just a little bit slow in parts, but other than that, I loved it. I think the ending absolutely makes this book for me so good. I'm not going to tell you what it was because you have to go read it, but it's a perfect ending for me. I love this. It's bleak, but not too bleak. Well, nothing really good happens, but it still didn't feel too bleak for me. Yeah, this is the perfect way to end this vlog. This was so good. I'm probably going to reread this in October when it's the season for it. I'm so stoked. Okay, we finished 5 books. Most of them did not go well for me, but I did it. I got 5 more books off of my TBR. I'm probably going to be doing this every month, so if you like this, please remember to like and subscribe. I'm such a real influencer now, and if you made it this far, leave me a skull emoji, and I will see you next time. Bye!